Hello, everybody. This is Linda DeVitas, owner and founder of healingsonthego.com. I'm a psychic clairvoyant medium, certified healer, Reiki healer, dolphin healer, professional space clearer, and a whole bunch more. To see what services I offer, go to healingsonthego.com. I would like to introduce my very special guest and favorite author, best-selling on the New York Times list, Neil Donald Walsh. Yay! Welcome, Neil. Welcome. It's such a pleasure and honor to have you on. As I said, you are my favorite, and whoever knows me, they all know that, my favorite author is Neil Donald Walsh. It's a big, big honor. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today. I would like to share with my audience about your story with Conversations with God and how it came to be.
Yeah, but first, did you get my check?
No.
Oh, you mean you said all those nice things about me and you didn't get my check?
It's okay.
I normally pay people to say those that I'm their favorite author, but if you didn't get my check, I'll just tell my secretary to cancel Linda's check. No, she said she doesn't need any. All right, thanks. Come
Uh,
on.
you are my favorite author. I know I say a million times, but it's true. It's such a pleasure. I was going through a very dark period in my life, and they used to always tell me, they're like, "Did you read his book? Did you read his book?" I said no. So when I finally read it, I read almost all your books except like two or three, like the new one I didn't read, of course. But yeah, you really saved me from a very hard time. And thanks to you, I was on anxiety medicine. I was going through a lot of stuff, and you made me see the light and how life really is. Thank you so much for that.
Let me be clear about something. All joking aside, I didn't make anything happen. All I did was take dictation. I don't want people to think that I'm some kind of a special or very wise person who's doing all these things that Linda is describing. What Linda is talking about is that she read the messages that I received from God and that we are all receiving from God. I simply took dictation. I simply, did something that most people don't do. I wrote down and kept a record of the inspirations that I was receiving. So, Linda, if you experienced any kind of transformation or benefit in your life, it's not because of Neil, but it is because of the divine inspiration that came to me as it comes to all of us. And I'm really glad that it has served you in the way you've described.
Thank you so much. Well, thanks to you being the messenger, or else I would have never known. uh, tell us about the story of Conversations with God and how it came through for you.
Well, I think, first of all, I think we're all having conversations with God, Linda. I think we're just simply calling them something else. Some people call it, women's intuition or an epiphany or a sudden insight or, whatever words we can use, because calling it, a conversation with God is kind of like a little risky because it could invite ridicule or marginalization. But I called it exactly how I experienced it. I experienced it as a conversation with God because I interacted with those inspirational messages. When I received a message, I asked questions about it and received a response. And then I asked questions about the response and received another response. And before I knew it, Linda, I was involved in an ongoing conversation that I was then told in the conversation itself, Neil, you will make of this one day a book and it will be accessed by many people. I didn't sit down to try to write a book, but I was told in the dialogue that I would make a book out of it. So I thought, you know what? Let's see if this is just my imagination, because or the real thing, because no publisher, no legitimate publisher, I could self-publish it, but I mean, no publishing company is going to put a book out because a guy claims he's talking to God.
Mhm.
So I didn't think it was going to happen. But you know what? An actual publishing company, I sent it, my notes to a number of publishers, and one of those publishers actually put the book out. And I thought, I can't believe it. This is really happening. My goodness. And then I thought, well, of course, it's not gonna find 500 readers. because, who's going to read a book because a guy claims to be talking directly to God? I'll be lucky if it finds 500 readers. And I was right. I was totally right, Linda. It did not find 500 readers.
You found the millions. Awesome.
5 or 8 million to be exact, but who's counting?
Wow,
And I'm
that's
not bragging. I'm just saying this is what happens, when we listen to and follow through on the inspirations that all of us are receiving from the divine.
wow, that is amazing. God bless you. You went
Well,
through
God
your own
bless you, Linda. God bless you, and God bless all of us. In fact, God has blessed all of us. It's just that some of us have become more keenly aware of the blessings that we are all receiving in every moment from the divine.
And when I was reading your book, I constantly got chills, especially the part that God says he knows everyone that's going to read the book. And that gave me such goosebumps. I remember waking up on my birthday and just reading and reading. I was addicted to it. I wanted to read all your books, and I did. I purchased all of them that at that time. And The Little Soul is one of my favorite books that I read to my daughter because that's exactly what I remember. I remember before coming here. I'm getting the chills even telling you. I remember picking my parents and seeing my sisters saying ABC. I remember being a spirit. So everything you were saying was the divine truth because I remember parts of it, not everything, of course, but I remember being a spirit on the other side, which is amazing.
And you're not the first person to tell me that. I think many of us have had memories of when we were a spirit on what you call the other side. But we think it's just my imagination, or I made it all up, or it's just a dream, or whatever. But some people actually receive that image and realize, no, no, it's not. It's not my imagination. I didn't make it all up. I actually had that experience, and I'm glad that you have received it in that way. And thank you for sharing that with us.
My pleasure. And I remember seeing your movie that came out. I want my daughter to see it when she gets a little older so she can understand it. I bought the parents book, but I didn't get a chance to read that yet. I forgot what it's called, but it's for parents raising kids and explaining to them, you know. So
Yes.
I love all your books. God bless you again.
Well, you're
I'm
very
so
kind.
happy that you channeled all these messages.
You're very kind to say that. And although I'm going to interrupt you again and say I didn't channel anything, I resist the description of a person who channels because that's not what I do. I didn't channel anything. I simply listened to the inspirations that I was receiving and wrote them down. And I make the correction, Linda, if I could explain, because people define these days a person who channels is defined as someone whose entire body is taken over by a disincorporated entity, and then he channels through that information. That was nothing close to my experience. So I'm going to resist being told that I channeled the information. I did not channel it
Okay.
any more than anyone else channels, women's intuition or an epiphany. I simply listened to what I was receiving, uh, and words I was hearing in my mind, and I wrote them down. I took dictation. It's really quite as simple as that. And
That's
I never expected anything to occur as a result of it, much less that Hollywood would make an actual movie of it.
mm,
But they did.
I'm so happy they did because your whole story is amazing. What you went through. If you'd like to share your story, you went through a big, everything was going bad for you at that time.
To put it mildly, Linda, the first thing that was happening is that my relationship with my significant other, with my wife, was coming to an end. I'm grateful that it wasn't a bitter, angry ending. We just kind of agreed that it wasn't working between us, and we decided amicably to simply go our separate ways. But it was still a huge disappointment to me. And we had children together, and I didn't really want to see the family broken up. But okay, fair enough. That's what happened. So we were going to try to make the best of it. But Linda, 5 days after I lost my relationship with my wife, I lost my job. The corporation that I was working for said they needed to downsize. They needed to lose some overhead. And so I was the last person they had hired. So last person in, first person out, because I had no seniority. So they didn't let me go because of lack of performance. In fact, my boss told me, I really hate to lose you. You're really, really good at what you do, but you have no seniority. We have to let you go. Corporate orders. So I lost my job and my relationship within a 5-day period. But wait a minute, the world wasn't done with me yet. 5 days after that, driving down the road, going to another job interview, which I was certain I was going to get this job because I had all the qualifications, all the experience you could ask for. But I never got to the job interview because an elderly gentleman turned his car left in front of me as I was driving down the road. He made a left turn in front of me and misjudged the distance between his car and mine. And he smashed right into the driver's side of my car. It was a
Oh,
terrible accident.
oh my
Thank goodness he escaped without serious injury, but I broke my neck. My neck was broken, and it wasn't a hairline fracture. I had a 3/4 inch avulsion fracture of the 7 cervical vertebrae posteriorly. In other words, a break in my neck large enough to put a pencil through.
oh my goodness.
And what the doctors said in the operating room when they rushed me to the hospital, he said, when I woke up, from the anesthesia, the doctor said, "You're a very lucky man."
Mm,
And I've seen injuries like this kill people, or at the very least, paralyze them from the neck down.
wow.
You escaped neither outcome.
Oh wow.
Then he looked me eye to eyeball, and he looked at me and he said, "So what are you going to do with the rest of your life?
Mm,
Because you've been given a great gift here. You shouldn't even be alive."
wow.
So, but I couldn't find a job. They gave me a therapeutic collar to wear. It's called in the business a Philadelphia collar. It's a plastic collar. If you've seen people wear them, that hold your head up. And the doctor said to me,
Wow.
"You're not to take this collar off for any reason whatsoever. You take a shower in it, you sleep in it." He said, "I don't care if you're having wild sex. You keep this collar on because it's the only thing that's holding up your head
Oh my
because your neck is unable to support your head right now." Now, here's the problem, Linda. I couldn't get a job because I was going to job interviews and everybody was, being very nice to me, but nothing came of it. And finally, the 7th person that I was interviewing with was honest with me. He looked at me and he said, "Mr. Walsh, you have all the qualifications. We'd hire you in a minute, but I can't hire you while you're wearing that therapeutic device around your neck. One wrong move, and our company is paying your hospital bills for the next 10 years. We can't come in here when you've got this healed, whatever's going on here, and we'll hire you in 30 seconds." So nobody would hire me.
No.
Finally, I ran out of my savings. And the little apartment that I was renting when my wife and I separated, the guy said, I can't carry you anymore. You haven't paid your rent in 2 months. I've got to evict you. I lost my apartment and I wound up living on the sidewalk. I had nowhere to go.
No. So sad.
Well, and I thought, I can do this for a couple of bad weeks or a month or two. I can make this work. Linda, I was out there living on the sidewalk for a year. I'm telling you, I spent a year of my life, 2 weeks shy of 1 year of my life, living on the street, sleeping on the ground, going from person to person with my hand out, asking if they could put anything in my hand, even a few coins would be helpful. Please, please, whatever you can spare. And having, one thing I never thought about people living on the street, it never occurred to me until I was out there for a year. Where do you use the bathroom? You have no place to you. You've lost all human dignity. You have to find some place in the woods that you can defecate. I mean, I used to sneak into restaurants, sneak into McDonald's and try to get into the men's room before the manager would see. Obviously, I was a street person. My hair was down to the middle of my back. I wasn't paying for haircuts. I was wearing the same clothes. I had only 2 shirts, 1 pair of jeans, and a pair of shoes. That's all I owned. That's all I had in my life. I couldn't carry my stuff with me. I had to get rid of all of it. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. But finally, the happy ending is I finally did get a weekend job after a year. I got a weekend job. Somebody hired me to be a weekend fill-in for one of their regular employees. And it gave me just enough money to afford a little studio apartment. They didn't even have a bedroom, just a one open space. But they had an old couch in there and a table, and that was about it. And boy, I jumped at it and I got it. Because you know what, Linda, it had a bathroom
Yeah.
and it had a couch, an old beat up couch that I could sleep on.
I know.
And you know what? I was out of the weather and I was in heaven under a roof again for the first time in a year.
Wow.
And that's when I sat down one morning. I was there about 2 months or so. And I woke up one morning at 4:30 in the morning, furious with life, because I thought, wait a minute, I'm an intelligent guy. I've got some gifts. I have some talents. What's going on in my life? Why is everything falling apart like this? What have I done to deserve a life of such continuing struggle? And there was a yellow legal pad on the coffee table that I was using to make, grocery lists and so forth. And so I started writing an angry letter to God. I just wrote a letter. Dear God, what does it take to make life work? And I can remember writing, what have I done to deserve this? Tell me the rules. I'll play your game. Just tell me the rules. Don't change them every time I turn around, because it felt like the rules, in life were changing every other week. And that's when I began receiving answers to my questions, which became a book called Conversations with God. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's
Thanks,
beautiful.
thanks for asking.
I know your story gives me the chills, and I always reread your books because whenever I feel like I'm in not feeling myself, I always feel God's words through you, and they all make sense. Every single thing, our perception is everything, and how we think of things. And I remember one time I went to bed very angry. I had argued with everyone. And what you said is exactly true. I mean, everything, I'm not saying that what you say is not true. From my experience, I experienced similar, not exactly, but when I went to bed, he said to me, I went to sleep and I told God that I'm tired of everyone. If you want to take me, take me. I said, I'm tired of living here. And then I had a dream that the sky opened up and he said, are you ready? And I remember reading that in your book. Are you ready? He says, are you ready? Then I was like, and then I was thinking, what do you mean, am I ready? And then he said, I'll tell you this, your sister, your twin sister, and your mom will take it the hardest. And I said, no, I'm not ready yet. So I had an opportunity to, I would have probably died in my bed and just left. So now I'm very careful of what I say. I'm not going to say, come take me, because he does answer. To the people that don't believe in God, he does answer.
Well, she does. She does answer. She's answered every question I ever asked, and he has given me a wonderful opportunity to reflect upon life in a way that I hadn't thought about prior to this experience. So you're right. She's right there for us every moment of our life, and he will never desert us.
That's true. That's very true.
I know it's true. Everything I say is true.
It is 100,000,000%. That is so funny. So when you did write it on your notepad, did you had a ghostwriter, right? Write it for you, or some people want to know how exactly it came to be a book.
A ghostwriter. I don't know what you mean by a ghostwriter.
No, like they put it all together. Not that you didn't write, meaning like they published it for you.
Well, no, my dear, I simply wrote down my question and wrote down the answer. And then if I had another question, I wrote down the question. This is all in longhand,
Right,
and
right.
because I wasn't thinking about anyone would ever see it, because it's having a very sacred personal experience. And then I wrote down the answer: question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. There was
Right.
no other writing. There was no ghostwriter. And
No,
and
no, I
and
don't
when
mean
I
by that.
and when I sent it to a publisher,
Yeah, the
they
book.
simply typed up what I had handwritten exactly as I hand wrote it, no editing of whatsoever. They didn't edit a single comma, a single paragraph. They just put it into typewritten form exactly as I had submitted it and published it. And
Awesome.
and they called it Conversations with God. And as I said, I honestly didn't think that 500 people would find their way to the book, but it turned out to be quite a phenomenal um, publication. As they say, it really made history in the publishing business because nonfiction books often sell, in the millions, but it's very rare. I won't say it never happens, but it's quite rare when I meant to say, please forgive me, I misspoke. I meant to say that fiction books often sell in the millions. Fiction books, novels and so forth become very popular and they sell in the millions. But nonfiction books selling, several million copies, very unusual, I'm told, in the publishing business. Most unusual.
Yeah.
So it turns out now that the books have been translated into 37 languages and they're available in virtually every country of the world. Again, I'm not bragging, just saying,
Oh,
you
it's
know.
true. Yeah. So they know where to get it. Exactly. And then when I tell people about the book, they said, but what about sin? Is there a hell?
Well, on Earth there is.
Exactly.
We've certainly created hell on Earth. There's no question about that in many, many ways.
Yes.
Uh, Large ways, large and small. But all joking aside, I'm told in the conversations with God that no, the idea of eternal damnation after we leave our body does not exist. God would have no reason to punish us, for heaven's sake. Would you punish a 2-year-old child with everlasting damnation for something that she did, for a moment in her life? So we're all acting like 2-year-olds, and God understands that, and God cannot be hurt or damaged or upset or injured or angered or frustrated by anything that we would do because God understands that we're just an underdeveloped, immature species of sentient beings that are seeking desperately to find a way to evolve. And God would not punish us for the mistakes that we make or the wrong turns that we take, if you please, on the pathway to our own evolution. So I'm told directly that no, there's no such thing as hell, and there's no such thing as Satan. The devil doesn't exist. Who would create the devil? Would God actually create the devil and then be at war with the devil? An entity that he created, and now she's at war with the devil? I mean, come on, none of it makes any sense when you think about it. So I was told that the word Satan is simply an acronym, Satan, in the English language. It's just an abbreviation, seeing anything as negative.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's a good one. That's
one
true.
of one of many astonishing statements given to me in conversations with God. And I want to make something clear because people might think, well, he's got a PhD in theology or whatever. I never went to college. I barely escaped high school, and I'm not kidding. I graduated from high school with C minus and D's in all of my subjects. Not because I wasn't intelligent, I simply didn't care. I simply wasn't paying attention. If I could escape with a D and just pass the class with the least amount of work, that's what I did. So I got to let the audience know that I'm not a broadly educated person with a 4-year college degree and a PhD behind that. I'm just an ordinary, average, everyday person who barely got through high school. And the information that I received contains enormous philosophical and psychological wisdom, if you'd please. I can
Yes.
say that because it's not my information, but I've been told this by psychologists. Enormous insight in these books. So that's again my story, and I'm sticking to it.
And God speaks to us all the time. Like you said, it's true. Like, can you give the audience some examples? Because they don't know how God speaks.
Well, in 100 different ways across 1,000 moments in multiple lifetimes. It could be feelings, a sudden feeling that you get. It could be, a vision or a dream that you have, as you mentioned earlier, or it could be just a vision that you have, while you're awake, but you just have suddenly a vision that appears to you in your consciousness. Or it could be actual words. It could be, a sentence or a statement. And you could be interacting with the divine in a way that could produce an actual conversation. So, feelings, visions, words, ideas, random thoughts, or a chance utterance of a friend on the street that you just happen to walk into. Or maybe it's a conversation you overhear in a coffee shop that directly relates to something that you've been asking about and thinking about. Or maybe you're driving down the road, and with worries, something really bothering you on your mind. And as you're driving down the road, you turn the corner and there's a billboard, 40 feet across and 20 feet high, with the exact words on the billboard that responds to what you've been thinking about, for the past 6 months. So there are many, many, many ways that God speaks to us or communicates with us. This is life informing life about life through the process of life itself. I could,
Exactly.
of course, be wrong about all of that, but I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And I was reading your book so much that I had a man, your look-alike, move right next door to me. That said, "Do you know you look like Neil Donald Walsh? You look like your twin." And then I said, "Whenever I look at you, you make me happy because it reminds me of the books I'm reading." They goes, "Really?" And then he ended up moving to Argentina. But
That's a
really, he looked like
fascinating,
you.
fascinating history. And we're going to be back in just a moment, but we have to take a short break for now for these brief messages. So listen very carefully because these are very important messages, and we'll return in just a moment.
Did you know that astrology and numerology are the keys to helping you raise your vibration, understanding your unconscious behaviors, and will help you discover who you are from a soul level? Hello, I'm Reverend Joanne Angel Barry Cologne, the founder of Holistic Fitness located in Queens. Your certified and licensed holistic personal trainer, holistic integrated teacher, Reiki master, medical astrologer, master of numerology, card creator, and card reader. I would love for you to come join me every Sunday for 12 weeks to discover your astrological and numerology makeup. For more information, email healingwithin76@gmail.com. I look forward to helping you bridge the spiritual and physical realms as you experience a body and soul transformation.
Hi, I am Linda DeVitis. I am a psychic clairvoyant medium and certified healer. I have also written a book, My Journey from Darkness to the Light, which is available on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and on my website, www.healingsonthego.com. If you would like to book an appointment with me, call me at 917-929-4935. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back with my favorite author, Neil Donald Walsh. Yay!
Yay!
Welcome, welcome. I would like to say a quick hello to Anne and everyone else tuning in. Please do like and share. Okay, so let's talk about there's no good and there's no bad. The
Well, I
soul,
was told in my conversations with God, this is one of many statements that have been shocking to some people, certainly surprised me. But I was told there's no such thing as right and wrong. There is only what we call right and wrong at a certain point in time. And in order to illustrate that, God pointed out to me that many things that we call totally okay today were called totally wrong a few years ago. And a few centuries ago, they were absolutely wrong. And the reverse is true as well. Things that we called okay 15 or 20 years ago or several centuries ago are now called wrong by us today. So we keep on changing our definitions about what is right and wrong. So there's no such thing as right and wrong. There is only what works or does not work given what it is we're trying to do. And the challenge for humanity is we don't know. I mean, the largest number of people as a collective, we don't even know what we're trying to do here. We're not clear what we're trying to do. And because we're not clear what we're trying to do as a civilization, as a collective, we can't seem to get together on what we call right and wrong, what we call good and evil, what we call anything, really. So, and I've never seen so much disparity around that question, Linda, that I'm seeing now on the planet. We're experiencing now a level of alienation on the earth between people of different races, different cultures, different countries, different political persuasions, even different genders, different ages. To say nothing of people of different religions. I've never seen this level of alienation before. We seem to be unable to disagree agreeably. And I don't make light of this. I'm very sad about this. We're killing each other over our disagreements by the thousands. I mean, can you imagine a species that kills thousands of people over a borderline dispute because we can't agree on where the borderline exists between our two countries? And we're so angry about it that we refuse to talk about it in a sane way. Let's just kill thousands of people until one side or the other, gives in. What kind of a way is that to solve our problems? But on a much smaller level, but with the same kind of negative energy, we do the same thing between individuals, not just between nations, but between individuals. So we have no idea what we're trying to do here, largely because we have no idea who we are. I mean, who are we really? Is this who I am? Am I actually this body? Is that the sum total of who I am? Or am I also maybe a body with a mind? Okay, fair enough. I'm a body with a mind. I'm a sentient being. Is that it? Is that who I am?
no.
Or is it possible, just possible, that I'm more than that? Is it possible that I'm a spiritual entity, having a body and having a mind, but that my spiritual being is who I really am, and that I came here to the realm of the physical with an agenda that has nothing to do with borderlines between countries, the size of my bank account, the amount of influence that I have in the world, or any of the things that I used to think were important in my life. So we're not paying attention, my friend Linda. That is the largest number of people on the planet that I observe are not paying attention to what's truly important in life, which is why we have had armed conflict on this planet for all but 5% of recorded history. We can't stop killing each other when we disagree. I mean, come on, folks, come on. I mean, really, is this the best that an advanced civilization, a so-called advanced civilization, can do? Or is it possible that there's something we don't fully understand here about God, about life, and about who we are? The understanding of which would change everything. I just ask. I just ask. And if you think that it's possible that there's something we don't fully understand, maybe you want to take a look at that.
That's true. Very true. I had a lady ask me, she said, in your books, do you discuss Jesus or no? Like why, because the
There's
Bible's
not, there's not,
about
there's not,
sin and stuff.
the answer is there's not a lengthy discussion of Jesus. But of course, I mentioned that I had to ask, what's going on around that. And God said Jesus is the Son of God, as are you all. The only difference between Jesus and most other people is that Jesus understood that, recognized it, declared it, and acted like it. But even Jesus said to his disciples, when they saw him performing miracles, he looked at them right in the face and said, "Why are you so amazed? These things and more shall you do also."
Exactly.
He told us outright that we were all his equal. And all we had to do was to behave in a way that allowed us to express our true identity as individuations of divinity. And that was God's message to the world. We are all individuations of divinity. Jesus was not the only such individuation. And Jesus, by the way, never said that unless you belong to a particular and certain religion, you're going to hell.
Exactly. He never said that. That's true.
But this is the way primitives think. A primitive culture that we like to pretend is an advanced civilization. We actually tell each other that, what, doesn't matter how kind you are, how caring you are, how generous you are, how compassionate you are, how understanding you are, how forgiving you are, how loving you are. It doesn't matter. You can be all those things at the highest level. But if you just simply chose the wrong religion, if you're a Muslim or a Jew or a Buddhist or a Baha'i or a Sikh or the wrong religion, God has no choice. God sends you to hell.
And
And this is the God in whom billions believe. We call this godly justice. Come on, people. Come on, folks. I mean, really.
exactly. That's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Like if you laugh, you go to hell. If you do certain things, you go to hell. I believe exactly our soul picks certain things before we come here to experience. Our soul comes to experience certain things. And from that, I think it's linked to other things.
I think the soul comes here. Forgive me for challenging you on that statement, but I want to clarify my thought about that. I think the soul comes here to experience certain states of being, but I don't think the soul, in my understanding, the soul does not come here to experience certain things, like you're going to fall down the steps when you're 9 years old and hurt yourself, or your father is going to die when you're 21, or you're going to have a terrible car accident when you're 35. Or you're going to be caught up in a war when you're 78. I don't think that the soul comes here to experience certain events so much as to experience certain opportunities to express aspects of its true identity. But the events, the exterior events of our life are co-created. We've been given free will. So what I was told is that the events of life are freely created by the people who are producing those events. It's not that God said, let's have a war, in 2024. So that the soul did not create those events, nor did God, but humanity certainly has. No question about that, because we've been
Okay.
given free will. So, folks, this is your opportunity. If you're watching the program, can you join with others and help us all to wake up?
Exactly.
Just a thought. I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Tell us about your new book. I have to get it, God Talk.
Well, I was, most publishers, receive requests from authors. After an author writes a book, they try to find a publisher to put it out. And that was my situation as well for the first books that I wrote. But in this case, I got a phone call. Never happened before. I picked up the phone and it was a publisher calling me
Oh,
saying,
nice.
Neil, would you be willing to write a book for us? I said, wow, what did you have in mind? They said, could you write a book that explains to people how they might be able to have their own conversation with God by sharing how you had your experience? I mean, in specific terms, not just broadly, generally, but step by step. And I said, sure, I could do that. So I did. I wrote that book, and they titled it God Talk, Exploring Humanity's Connection with the Divine. And you know what they did? They did something quite interesting. They put on the internet an invitation, and they said to the general public, if you ever have experienced what you consider divine intervention in your life, send us your story. And they called me and told me we're getting hundreds of emails from people all over the world. So they took out, the 7 or 8, maybe 8 or 9 of the best stories, the most intriguing stories, and included them in the book because they wanted to make a point. This is not just about some guy up there in northwest part of the United States who claims to be talking to God. People all over the world are having these kinds of divine interventions. And here are other stories that can, produce evidence of that reality. So I'm happy to say that the book God Talk includes not just my story, but stories of other people from all over the world.
Wow, that's beautiful. And is there such a thing as karma?
Not in the way, well, again, I speak from what I was told in conversations with God, not in the way that people think of as karma, something that has to happen, or a karmic debt that you have to pay because of some misdemeanor or some major offense that you incurred in a previous lifetime. So there's no such thing as karma in the sense of an event that you can't avoid. It had to happen. It's programmed into your reality. But there is such a thing as a cause and effect in this world. Every cause has an effect, and everything that we think, say, or do can absolutely produce outcomes in our physical experience. And some people call those outcomes, well, it's just karma. It's got bad karma. But there's no such thing as bad karma. God does not send you down here and say, sorry, what can I do? You just did some really bad stuff 18 lifetimes ago, so you got to pay it off now. That's not how it works. Again, another childish, if you please, immature, barbaric idea that a loving, gentle, kind, compassionate God would never allow to occur.
Exactly.
God's on our side. God does not send us down here with some kind of karmic debt that we have to pay off. It's not my understanding.
Right. That's true. And then there are some people that say, what do you say to those people that say, I don't believe in God?
I say, okay, then don't.
Okay.
I see. I don't try to convince anyone of anything.
Yeah.
I'm not here to proselytize. I'm not here to convince anyone of anything. I'm not here to have an argument or a debate, or even really, for that matter, a lively discussion, trying to convince anyone of anything. So you know what? If a person says to me, I don't believe in God, I say, fair enough. I respect that.
Right.
I truly respect that. I respect all points of view, and I'm not suggesting for a minute that my point of view is any more valid than anyone else's. You know, I'm sharing because I was invited to share what works for me. And if not believing in God works for you, go for it.
That's true. You can't convince them because some people are set in their ways, and it's true. They have to experience it on their own.
It's not even a question of trying to convince them. It's a question of there's no need to convince anyone of anything.
That's right.
You know, if you know what, ultimate reality isn't going to change whether you believe in God or not. Ultimate reality is ultimate reality, and your not believing in God is not going to change a thing, which you will discover, in my understanding, when you leave your present incarnation and you go home once again, and you realize, oh, I guess there is a higher power. But you know what's interesting, Linda? Surveys have been taken in countries around the world by anthropologists. I mean, scientific surveys, not casual questions, but scientific surveys have been taken in the past 10 years because anthropologists wanted to find out. So they asked a single question of people in all the nations of the earth. The question was, do you believe in a higher power? And you know, the results have come in. You can find this all on the internet. I'm not making this up. You can find this on the internet. The results have come in. 8 out of 10 peoples in all the cultures of the planet uniformly said, yes, we believe in a higher power. I mean, there's more going on here than meets the eye. We may not agree on what the higher power is or how it works or what it wants or what it does. If it doesn't get what it wants, we don't have we don't have agreement about all that. We call our disagreements religions or philosophies, but we do have a sense that there's a higher power. You know, or as Shakespeare famously wrote in his play Hamlet, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy.
There has to be. Who created the whole galaxy? The air?
Yeah, there's more
Everywhere.
going on here than meets the eye. So we have to decide what we're doing here. Who do we want to be? Do we want to be an individuation of that which created us, an individual expression of divinity, if you please? Or who do we want to be? Again, as Bill himself wrote a few years ago, to be or not to be.
Mhm.
That is the question.
Exactly.
Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to rise up against a sea of troubles and by opposing to end them, to die, to sleep perchance to dream. There's the rub.
Yeah. I love when you say, when God says, "You've got me all wrong." That's my favorite quote.
Yeah, I think that was chapter 10 of one of the books, book 1, it might have been. Well, God, it was just a one-sentence chapter. You've got me all wrong.
Yes. That's true.
And it was a marvelous, marvelous statement. If the world's religions could simply agree on one single sentence that we could all say we agree with, and I have proposed that in a book that I've called The God Solution. The sentence is a new definition of God. That book offers a brand new single sentence definition of God that I think that all the world's religions could agree on if we simply set aside our differences. And here's the definition. God is pure love. By the way, anyone who wants a copy of the book, The God Solution, I'll upload you a copy, an electronic digital version of the author's manuscript. All you have to do is send me an email, neil@neildonaldwalsh.com, and I'll send you the book by return email, a digital copy of it at no cost, of course, no cost.
Thank you
So
so much.
the book is called The God Solution. and you might find it interesting. Even if you don't agree with it, I think you'll find it a fascinating read. So give it a chance. See what you think.
And tell our audience well, they can find your books on your site and a whole bunch of places, I'm sure. Amazon, everywhere. Your
Well,
books everywhere.
well, the books are widely available, of course, at any online bookseller, not just Amazon, but any online bookstore, and in bookstores all over the world. As I said, in 37 languages. So it's not difficult to find them. But if you're looking for a list of the titles, you can find that at my website, neildonaldwalsh.com.
Yes, and they can, if they have any questions, can they contact you directly? You said the email, but I forgot what it was again.
The email is impossible to forget, neil@neildonaldwalsh.com. It's just me at me.
So whoever wants to contact him, feel free. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Any other new books coming up?
I'm working on a book, which I'm not going to talk about too much right now, but yeah, I'm in the midst of working on something, and we'll see if we can get it done here in the next couple of 1,000 years.
I look forward to it. As I said, I always reread your books because they're very interesting. And when I need to feel enlightened, that's what I do. Sometimes when things get a little bit too crazy, I want to feel God's words, and I feel it through your words. So I always connect, and it's remarkable. Everything is just excellent.
Well,
Of course,
I'm humbled by what you're saying, Linda. Honestly, all joking aside, I'm very grateful, humbly grateful that some small thing that I may have done has brought benefit into your life. Thank you for telling me that.
oh, you're welcome. And it was a big thing, trust me. More than you know. You really saved me a lot. Thank you so much for writing your books, and I look forward to reading more of them. Okay, they said, awesome interview, Linda. Neil, you're a terrific guest. Thank you so much. I enjoyed the show very much. Anne says she's writing on Facebook.
I sent her a check as well. I told her, I can double what I sent you last month if you put a comment on Facebook. And she put a comment on Facebook. So she'll be getting a check in the mail.
Well, you're too humble. You are the best. And I thank you so, so much for coming on the show. It's been a real great honor and a pleasure.
Thank you,
You're
Lynn.
awesome,
Thank you for
Neil.
saying honestly, it's been my pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for the opportunity to share my point of view.
My pleasure. And any last words with our audience?
Yes. Your life is not about you. It's about everyone whose life you touch and the way in which you touch it. And when you experience your life in that way, you will discover a universal truth that in the largest sense, your life is about you for an elegant reason. There's only one of us.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Neil, again. It's such an honor and pleasure. Yay, let's cheer. Thank you so much for being on again. And
thank you, Linda. It's
hopefully
lovely to
one
be
day I
here.
can have you back on soon. Again, after, the new book. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. God bless each and every one of you. Have a great night, everybody.